everyone, welcome to Litigation Help. My name is Heather Hui-Litwin. Joining me here today is Eva de Giamarino and Laura Garcia, both from a family mediation group. Today we're going to talk about mediation. I think a lot of people are very not very sure about what mediation is. I definitely didn't know. So I'm really lucky today that I have Eva and Laura joining me today to explain a little bit more about mediation is. So let's start from the beginning. What is mediation?
So mediation is an alternative dispute resolution process. That just means that people who are having a dispute, whether it's legal or emotional, can come together with a third party. That third party is neutral, they're unbiased, and that party is helping them negotiate the settlement, essentially.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about what to expect in a mediation session? Maybe Laura?
Well, it depends what type of mediation.
Okay.
So, as Eva was mentioning, there's about emotional or legal or financial, but there's a family mediation. We specialize generally in working with families in mediation. So what to expect in a family mediation is generally whatever families are going through when they're going through separation or divorce, whatever issues they may have, they bring at the table, and we would try and guide them and work with them to reach usually a separation agreement, and we can explain that a bit in detail later, what a separation agreement is or whatever outcome they need to be reaching.
Right. Okay, so if we wanted to go through a few steps, I see that I was doing a little bit of reading myself, and they say, usually parties come in, the mediator usually introduces everyone, but you guys go through a little bit of opening remarks and things like that. Is that something that's common in sessions?
Yeah, so the first step, like Laura was saying, because we do family mediations where spouses are separating or divorcing. Yeah. So the first step for us is we meet with each person individually. That's the intake, and that's extremely important because it allows that person to get comfortable with us and give us their side of the story and what's been happening, and it gives us the opportunity to meet them and see how comfortable they are with the process. And it also allows us to make sure that the process is safe for all of us. So we conduct a power imbalance screening with each of them individually, just to make sure that the level of conflict is not so high that it may be unsafe for people to do the process. So that's the first step, is the intake session.
Interesting. Okay, and then what happens? Let's say you decide that you guys are fine to go through this, then when you guys are actually meeting that day of the mediation, can you describe a little bit about what to expect?
So after we conduct these two intakes, we generally meet with the people based on what we have heard and would gather. Some people are not comfortable being in the same room. So that's the first step, right? So then we ought to decide whether we're going to be in the same room or we're going to be separately. If we're in separate rooms, which is absolutely fine, as long as it keeps the communication and the conversation productive, that's fine. There's no negative inference to be made if people want to be in separate rooms.
Oh, wow.
But let's say, not ideally, but generally we meet with people in the same room. So we go through some certain steps, like ground rules, the usual common sense stuff, no interruptions, things like that. We hear from one party, then we hear from the other, and we develop an agenda of items that are important to them. And then sometimes, because of our expertise, we also bring in other items that they may need to consider in order to reach a comprehensive separation agreement. So it's sort of like a blend of their items and a blend of our items, developing an agenda, and then start working through each item one by one. So any subsequent mediation sessions would be focused upon consensus on one of those items or all of those items. Some families are absolutely comfortable resolving those items all in one session or two, and some are not. Some may need to digest a little bit more, depending on what issues are, depending, if there's a matrimonial home, if there's a cell, if there's other professionals that they need to be talking to.
Typically, how many sessions do people go through before they come to an agreement?
Well, with us, generally, we have
usually 2 or 3, and then that gives us enough. We draft the separation agreement for them. And so usually 2 or 3 is enough, of a couple hours each. And so really a family can spend truly under 6 hours at the mediation table and have enough for an agreement.
That's amazing. That's really so much shorter compared to the litigation side, right?
Well, absolutely. 6 hours is like one day in court.
That is amazing. So let's say that the parties have come to an agreement. So you said the separation agreement is drafted. Now, do they have to sign it right then and there? What usually happens after that?
They never, so you can...
Yeah, sure. So they never sign the separation agreement with us because we do want them to have the opportunity to, first of all, take it all in and make sure they, we do walk them through it, make sure they understand everything. But then we want them to have the opportunity to take it all in. They do have the opportunity to get independent legal advice, which just means that they can consult a lawyer, have the lawyer look over it if they want. Even if they don't want that, they can waive it, and then they sign on their own with a witness.
Oh, okay, I see. Do your clients usually come with a lawyer during mediation? Does that happen?
We have a blend of families who we work with. Most of the times they don't bring their lawyers in the mediation process, but they do have lawyers for what Eva was mentioning, independent legal advice, throughout the process. So whether they're about to agree on a particular item, they would have advice from a lawyer in terms of their entitlements, their rights, and all of that stuff. But they don't come into mediation. Rarely do they come in mediation to, it is the party's right, so the parent's right to bring in that lawyer, but it is not necessary. And sometimes we found that it may escalate conflict in the mediation rather than help. Just because, and this is just my own personal sort of view, that parents know best in the end what works for their family. So we have enough there to try and guide them to get to an agreement, and then they can pass that agreement by their legal counsel, because the lawyer will only look at the legal aspect of that agreement. Cannot really render an opinion over the remainder, which is parenting and other sort of communication protocols and all of that stuff, right? So the legal portion of the agreement is only one portion, and then there's a lot more to an agreement.
I see. Okay, now, but let's say that there's an agreement reached and is signed off. What happens if you change your mind? Can you change your mind?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So once an agreement, a separation agreement is signed, that is a legal contract, and it has the consequences just like any other consequences when you break a legal contract. That being said, separation agreements are specific contracts just for families. And so there are clauses that are contemplated in the separation agreement that allow parents to change up some of the issues or some of the topics so that their family can grow into the agreement. So for example, we may do a mediation for a family who has young children, 6 or 7. That family will have clauses in their agreement so that they can come back to the table later on when their kids are going to university, because things like support and where the kids are living are going to be different.
Right.
So it's not sort of like a normal contract in the sense that you can't make changes at all. That stuff is built in.
Oh, that's really interesting, because obviously it's kind of hard to foresee.
Right, exactly.
So there's a little bit of flexibility built into these agreements.
Yeah.
So that's really great. So I want to thank you for giving us this little overall basics of mediation. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more information, I'm going to have a few links in the description below so that you can click on. And again, so thanks for watching. See you.